everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, and this is my classroom. Why is he so bombastic about it all the time? That's right, Pachiti is busy today on official Cultaholic business, and that means that I'm filling in for this week's Monday Night Raw. But how good was Raw? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's by assigning each individual segment a lovely individual grade. That's right, it's time for WWE Monday Night Raw Graded. Now, before we get to the first proper opening segment of Raw, let's talk about the announcement that was made on Raw as well. The participants of the Women's Elimination Chamber match. And remember, the winner goes on to face Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. So, in that match, there will be Shayna Baszler, Asuka, Natalya, and all three former members of the Riot Squad. Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, and Sarah Logan. And yes, the winner goes on to become the #1 contender to Becky's title. So, I can't wait to see who wins it. It's really unpredictable, and I think any one of them could do so. But now on to the proper opening of the show, and here comes Randall Keith Orton, all evil after what he did to Matt Hardy last week, and before that, what he did to Edge as well. Orton gets on the mic and says he was scheduled to face Matt Hardy tonight in a no DQ match, but that's not going to happen because of what happened last week, and he knows that Matt's in the back trying to get medically cleared, but it's just not going to happen. Orton continues, he says the Hardy Boys are known for jumping from the highest of highs and crashing to the lowest of lows. And hold that thought, Randall, because here comes Matt Hardy. Come on, no, he looks absolutely terrible. He's in a neck brace. Wish I hadn't got excited now. Matt cuts a promo as he walks down the ramp. He wants Orton to confess and tell everybody why he did what he did to Edge. And then Matt, despite being clearly in no state to defend himself, gets in the ring, really defiantly, a great display of defiant wrestling. Orton replies and says nobody will ever understand why I did what I did to Edge. And then he tells Matt Hardy, he says, I really respect you from the bottom of my heart, but I also really respect Edge. And not only that, I love him like a brother. I'm sorry. And then he gets out the ring and starts to leave. And I'm just like, what? But Orton slowly stops at the top of the ramp and turns back to the ring. So Matt Hardy, he realizes what's going on. He goes and grabs a chair. He's like, I know where this is going. Orton slithers down the ramp, gets very slowly on the apron. Matt Hardy swings the chair. Orton ducks, drapes Matt's head across the top rope. Obviously his neck's really hurt, so he's just down immediately. And Orton gets in the ring and Matt is at his mercy. Orton hits an RKO and then lots of chair shots, and then it looks like he's setting up for the concerto, but he seems to think better of it and gets out the ring, and you think, oh good, he's got a shred of conscience left after all. But no, he drags Matt Hardy out of the ring, puts his head on the ring steps and hits the concerto in that way, and then a second one as well. There are people in the crowd crying, there's wails of anguish, and Matt Hardy is stretched out of the arena, and what a brutal way to start Monday Night Raw. This was performed really, really well, and I think it made Orton look like an absolute monster, but at the same time, we still don't quite know why he did what he did to Edge, and now to Matt Hardy as well. I wanted to give this like an A or even an A+ grade. It was really, really performed well, but it did test my suspension of disbelief quite a bit. That's because there was no security and no baby faces to break this up, despite it dragging on for quite some time. Anyone could have run out the back to help poor Matt Hardy. His life was in danger in kayfabe. When Brock Lesnar wants to build a feud with somebody, you can't really see the ring for the amount of security and fellow roster members keen to break up any scuffle that may occur. But when Matt Hardy's getting his neck caved in, everyone's fine. Still, I think this was a very effective opening segment, and both men did really, really well, so I'm going to give it an A-. And I've seen a lot of people talking online as well about this being Matt Hardy getting buried because he might be heading to AEW. There are rumours of that, of course. But I don't know if that's necessarily true. This isn't really the same to me as when Dean Ambrose was put in that weird angle with EC3 and then Nia Jax got involved, and it was all a bit strange, and you could tell that they were trying to drag Ambrose's momentum down before he left for pastures new. I don't know if that's the case with Matt Hardy. I think he's got too much of a legacy behind him for anything really to affect him at this point, and I don't think this did affect him. I think he looked really brave, really stupid as well, but really brave. Next up, the first match of the show. We've just had this really somber and serious opening segment with Randy Orton decimating Matt Hardy. And now, here comes little Erick Rowan with his funny little mystery animal in the cage, doesn't he? What could it be? He's such a hoot. And Rowan, to be fair to him, he seems to have a pretty good strategy against his opponent, who is Aleister Black. Black charges across the ring at the start, tries a jumping knee strike, Rowan blocks it, and then just dominates Aleister Black for the next 4 or 5 minutes. He's battering him in the ring, he's taking him outside the ring, ring, battering him there. He's dropping him on the crowd barrier. I'm like, whoa, Erick Rowan, really? He came to play, in the words of another great superstar. But Black works his way back into the match as it approaches its closing stretch. A closing stretch that I really enjoyed, especially the fact that it took 2 Black masses to put away Erick Rowan. But realistically, Aleister Black was the only choice to win this match. I'm going to give it a B grade. It wasn't an opponent for Black that I was keen to see in the middle of his push, because I don't want either guy to lose momentum. But I think the way they did it actually won me around, especially towards the end of the bout. So yes, it gets a B grade, but we still don't know what's inside that cage. And my patience is wearing thin, Erick. Why would I talk to Erick like that? He would rip my head off. Next up, here comes the Queen, Charlotte Flair, who of course we saw on Sunday night jumping Rhea Ripley at the end of that title match at TakeOver Portland. Charlotte says she's really bothered by the entitlement of today's NXT class. People who didn't have to scratch and claw and sacrifice like her generation did to lay the foundations. And she says that Rhea's a perfect example of this. She didn't fight like Charlotte and her contemporaries did in order to pave the way for people like Rhea, who she perceives as ungrateful. She says, how dare you have the audacity to stand there with the title that I put on the map and say that you're the best. Charlotte also says that yes, she thinks Rhea's good. She thinks she's really good. But there's a saying, isn't there? Pride comes before the fall. Charlotte, it's actually pride comes before a fall, but we'll let that go. And she says she's going to humble her at WrestleMania. She closes the promo by saying everyone's the next big thing until they're not. And can we just check that she's actually Ric Flair's daughter and not Triple H's, because that sounded very Hunter Hearst Helmsley to me. This gets a B+ grade from me. Charlotte's delivery can often sound very obviously like she's reading a script, and of course she is reading a script, but certain superstars can mask that better than others. But despite this, I thought this was one of Charlotte's better efforts in recent memory, and I think that it had some really good delivery and also some cracking lines in there as well. I'm not sure what the overall purpose of it was, whether it was just to capitalize on the beatdown at TakeOver Portland or not, but I think that it had an effect on me, and that effect is that I really want to see Rhea Ripley beat Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, so can't complain here. Next up, the 24/7 Championship is on the line as the champion Riddick Moss takes on his former friend Mojo Rawley and R-Truth as well, and commentary explains that the 24/7 rules are suspended for the duration of this contest. And I know this isn't the first time that this has happened, but why do they do that? It's the 24/7 Championship. Is it 24/7 or is it not? Anyway, Riddick Moss, the champion of the 24/7, I guess, belt, gets slammed into the barricade. I'll cheer up. Gets slammed into the barricade on the outside pretty early on, and then just a few moments later, Mojo seems to have R-Truth beaten in the middle of the ring after a big press slam. He gets on top for the cover. 1, 2, Riddick Moss dives into the ring, flips over Mojo, rolls him into a pinning predicament, and retains the title. Moss runs away into the crowd holding up his gold, as in the ring, Mojo just throws an absolute fit, yelling at R-Truth for some reason for not letting him win the match and just walk off with the belt, I guess. Truth hits him with the axe kick and leaves, and everyone claps Truth because he's funny and popular, and that's the end of the segment. This gets a C+. The action was totally fine. It was a really short match, but the action was pretty good for the most part. But the 24/7 title just makes me sad. It just, to me, now just screams of wasted potential, and I was so excited when it was first introduced. On the plus side, Riddick Moss actually looks pretty damn promising away from the context of NXT. Next up, here comes the #1 contender for Brock Lesnar's WWE Championship, or the #1 contender to the title after Lesnar versus Ricochet, because who knows, Ricochet could win that match, dudes. Oh, the sarcasm was dripping from my voice there. Drew says, wow, everyone seems pretty excited tonight. That can only mean one thing. It's only 48 days until WrestleMania. That's a very specific thing for everyone to be excited about, but fair enough, Drew. He leads a mass point at the sign along, and everyone points at the sign. If I was encouraged to point at the sign, I'd point at the sign. I'm not above that. Drew says he's about to give us all a little bit of a geography lesson. I feel as though I'm logged into sporkle.com right about now. And Drew says, right, these days, Suplex City is located firmly within Claymore Country. And at WrestleMania, he's going to tear that bitch to the ground. Drew, don't swear like that, man. Paul Heyman interrupts, and he's at the top of the ramp to introduce his client, the reigning, defending WWE Champion of the World, S.A. Rios. Brock Lesnar. Damn. But Lesnar isn't actually here. Paul was just teasing us all to rile up the crowd and everything. He also says that Lesnar's going to beat Ricochet and then beat Drew at WrestleMania. Drew says he's going to win. They go back and forth a bit. You know how these kind of things go. Before Heyman leaves, he brings out Drew's opponent for tonight, the man he humiliated last week, MVP. And MVP comes out all kinds of fired up. He's on the mic and he goes, Drew! And Drew's in the ring just popping a squat, just going, yes, in such a bored tone. That really tickled me. I found it quite funny. MVP gets in the ring and says, last week, Drew, you disrespected me. Well, this week, I get my revenge, but it's not going to be a cheap shot. You're going to see it coming. And then he immediately cheap shots him. Thought it was quite funny. Despite getting the upper hand straight away, it doesn't go well for MVP. The match gets underway, and after about a minute or so, Drew wins with the Claymore after the lovely big countdown to get everyone involved. And MVP's doing well in this little storyline, I think, but obviously it's not going to carry on for very long. This gets a B+ grade for the overall, for the promo and the match as well, and the involvement of MVP and everything. Yeah, B+ grade. Drew, right, is just really naturally likable. I think that in this role, if the same exact lines and the same exact material, like the countdown, the getting everybody to point at the sign, the being a bit of a sarcastic guy when heels try and call you out, if that was all given to somebody like Rollins or Reigns, I think they'd come across as quite childish or trying too hard. But with Drew, it all just feels very effortless, and that is a testament to his charisma. Next up, here comes the Raw Women's Champion, Becky Lynch, and with her, she's got a mystery bag. Ooh, what's in the bag, Becky? Is she looking after Erick Rowan's mystery pet by any chance? I thought that joke sucked when I wrote it, and I've still kept it in the video. Becky says that she came to this country to seek her fame and fortune and found that she has no use for fame, but she's figured out what to do with fortune. And she starts just throwing hundreds, everybody, throwing those dollar bills on the canvas. I'm not cool. And she says this is preemptively my fine for what I do when I get my hands on Shayna Baszler. She says that she's determined to go after Shayna because only animals go for the neck, which is what Shayna did to her, of course, when she jumped the other week. She says that they go for the neck and they do so to weaken their prey. Well, take a look, Shayna. Do I look weakened? Becky says that she's run through a murderer's row of opponents in the past and she's cut every one of them down because she felt like she had to. Now she's going after Shayna Baszler because she wants to. Oh! What a line that was. Shayna pops up on the Tron, and I found this bit quite weird actually, because she's just jumped Becky the other week and just in like an absolutely vicious assault, tore the flesh from her neck and been covered in blood and everything, and being portrayed as completely like psychotic. And now she appears on the Tron and just calmly explains why she's going to win the Elimination Chamber. Shayna's reasoning for winning the Chamber match is honestly as simple as this. She says, the Chamber is held in a steel cage, and I used to be a cage fighter. She says that she's going to chew through every opponent, because she bit Becky, and yeah, she's going to beat Becky at WrestleMania. Becky says, I hope you win that match. I really hope you do, so that, so she can get her hands on it, basically. Shayna says she's going to beat the living S word of Becky Lynch. Language, Shayna. And I'm going to give this segment a B grade. I thought it was very good. I thought it was well performed, but I don't think it might not have been as effective as it could have been. First of all, I thought Becky was excellent on the mic here. I wasn't too sure about the money gimmick, but I think she played it off well, about as well as she could have done. But one thing that I think this segment did was really telegraph the result of the Elimination Chamber match. Surely Shayna's going to win that match. I'd be really, really surprised if anyone else in that chamber won. Very surprised, actually. Maybe Becky will get involved to help Shayna win, but honestly, I just think Shayna's going to run through just about everyone. We go backstage now where we have a gathering of conventionally attractive people. We have Angel Garza, Zelina Vega, Lana, and Bobby Lashley. And Lana explains that it was her idea on Valentine's Day. She just had this crazy idea of having Lashley and Angel Garza team up to represent the two hottest couples in WWE. Vega gets the mic and she says, yeah, that's really cool of you, Lana. Thank you very much for that. But 1 second, friend. Me and Angel Garza, we're not a couple. And Angel Garza agrees because he doesn't want Aleister Black to kick his head in, obviously. This leads to a tag team match against Humberto Carrillo and Rusev. And my big takeaway from this match is that Angel Garza is the absolute best. For example, at one point, he rips off his tearaway pants, throws them at Rusev, who's the illegal man on the apron, but he gets in the ring to chase Garza, so Garza just runs away, gets a kiss from someone in the front row of the crowd, and then turns back to ringside and eats a suicide dive from Humberto Carrillo, all within the space of a few seconds. You cannot take your eyes off this guy. He is amazing. He also picks up the win in this match, getting a big pinfall over Rusev. Yes, it involved a roll-up and a handful of tights, but Rusev was distracted as well because he was busy trying to kick his ex-wife's new husband's face in. Garza celebrates on the top rope, so Rusev knocks him to the outside because he's pissed off and stares down Bobby Lashley and Lana on the ramp. This gets a B+ grade. I don't like how this Rusev-Lashley storyline's gone on, and it's carried on for way too long. It's not been well written. But this was a really, really fun match, and it elevates Angel Garza, and I don't mind that one little bit. So B+ is the grade. Next up, we get Kairi Sane versus Natalya, but before the match, Asuka gets on the mic and cuts a promo on Natalya. She says that she's going to beat Natalya in the Elimination Chamber and head on to WrestleMania. No, you won't, pal. Not by a long shot there, mate. A few minutes in, Natalya goes for the sharpshooter, but Asuka distracts her from the outside. Kairi runs and knocks Natalya to the outside of the ring. And then the world's stupidest referee turns to check on Kairi in the ring while Natalya is on the floor getting up mere feet from Asuka on the outside. When he turns back the other way to look at Natalya, she's completely KO'd on the floor and he counts her out and Kairi Sane picks up the victory. What could possibly have happened? Asuka kicked her in the head, that's what happened. This gets a C+, it was a perfectly fine match, but really short though, and maybe you could argue that Natalya should have won because she's heading into the chamber and Kairi Sane isn't, but it is what it is. Next up, Murphy, not Buddy Murphy anymore, that's really sad. Murphy and the AOP are in the ring to introduce Seth Rollins, who's about to deliver his sermon. So, Buddy, just Murphy gets on the mic and says, everybody, please let me welcome Monday night's Messiah. Oh no, it's Messiah, buddy. I mean, just Murphy. See, everyone makes mistakes. But I do feel bad for Murphy for that verbal flub. He's going to be on Botchamania, isn't he? With that humiliating text that Matthew uses. You know the one I mean. Despicable. Rollins comes out and he is nearing just like straight edge society CM Punk levels of delusional here. He's shaking everybody's hand as he comes down the ramp really graciously because he's just so deluded. He gets in the ring and basically, right, there's a crucial difference here. CM Punk wanted us to think that he was Jesus. Seth Rollins wants us to think that he doesn't think he's Jesus, but we should still think that he's Jesus anyway. And it's a complicated one to get your head around, but once that's what he wants, just trust me. Rollins says he and his stablemates will seek out the weak, the lesser than, and the non-compliant, and rehabilitate them. And if they can't be rehabilitated, they'll eradicate them. The Viking Raiders don't take too kindly to this. They charge the ring and start beating up the heels, so Rollins escapes, heads to the ramp, and throws down the microphone and turns around straight into a stunner from sneaky Kevin Owens, who'd crept up from behind. This gets a B because the segment was really conflicting for me. I thought that Rollins' performance was excellent. I really like the character turn that he's undergone in the past few months, and it's really working well now. At the same time, it did go on too long, and the crowd did start to get bored. So maybe if this had had the fat trimmed a little bit from it, it would have been a lot better, but still, I'm really enjoying Rollins and his stable and all their wacky shenanigans every Monday night. Next up, here comes AJ Styles back from injury, joined by his fellow OC members, and he's here to brag a lot. They talk him up as the new Mr. WrestleMania. He says, guys, I'm the best of any era. It's really just flagrantly arrogant stuff. He says he can take on anybody and he's confident that he will win, and he wants that WWE Championship. So he says, I'll take on whoever the champion is once I've done winning in Saudi Arabia. And at the mention of Saudi Arabia, here comes Ricochet, who of course has his title shot at Super Showdown in Saudi Arabia. He says he's going to beat Brock Lesnar, and he'll see AJ Styles after, and like Styles and the club just start laughing at him. Because, I mean, he's not going to beat Lesnar, is he? This leads to a fairly short match between Ricochet and Carl Anderson, who steps in for Styles. He says, no, I'll not let you ruin your return by going against this non-good brother. And anyway, I'm going to win because I'm the toughest man in the building. I really laughed when he said that for some reason. He delivered it really well. But Ricochet wins. He misses the 630, but he hits the Benadryller shortly afterwards and picks up the 3 count. This segment gets a B-. It felt a bit like filler, just to remind everyone that Ricochet is the #1 contender for Lesnar. We'll see how he does. We'll see how he does. I'll leave it there. And finally, the main event, it's 6-man tag team action between Kevin Owens and the Viking Raiders taking on the AOP and Murphy, just Murphy. I want to say it every time. Come back, buddy. This was a very house showy main event for the first half of it. It followed a very standard formula with the heels isolating the baby faces in the corner, cutting off hot tag attempts and that sort of thing, distracting the referee and then doing illegal things behind his back. And everybody really wanted the faces to get their revenge. It's very simple, easy to follow stuff. But things really livened up when Ivar got the hot tag and ran wild for a bit, and then Erick joined in and he ran wild for a bit, and then Owens got the tag and he ran wild for a bit, and the heels are having to kick out of swantons and big pop-up power bombs and that sort of thing, and it's all looking pretty exciting. The Raiders dive onto the AOP on the outside with a stereo suicide dive, and that leaves Owens in the ring to drop just Murphy with the stunner, and then Rollins runs in to break up the pinfall and cause the DQ. The heels beat down the faces, and Seth Rollins gets on the mic and says says that they're about to crucify Kevin Owens, by which I assume he means curb stomp him because the other heels have him in position for a curb stomp. But it doesn't matter because here comes the Street Profits to save the day. Murphy takes a huge pounce from Angelo Dawkins on the ramp, and the Street Profits help beat down the heels. Rollins slithers out of the ring, runs to the ramp while his boys are getting decimated in the ring, and just looks frustrated at the top of the stage. And that brings an end to Monday Night Raw, basically. This gets a B grade. I thought it was a fun, a solid main event. The finish was a bit disappointing, but afterwards the post-match segment really made up for it. But at the same time, I can't give it higher than a B grade just because it's the same combination of guys we've seen in these main events for the past few weeks now, and it does have diminishing returns. Overall though, I'm going to give this week's Raw a B+ grade. Yes, it was a bit heavy on promo segments and a bit light on actual wrestling, but we are building towards WrestleMania, and I do think as well that yes, along the road to WrestleMania, things can just fly off the rails at any point, as we've seen in the past quite a few times. But at the same time, for now, the Raw side of things seems to be going pretty well. So B+ is the grade. Hopefully this can continue as we head towards the big one. Thanks very much for watching, and let us know what you think in the comments section down below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter @Cultaholic and on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you enjoy what we do, then please do check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Cultaholic, where you can pledge. And don't forget, of course, most importantly of all, to hit subscribe and to join us.